Okay, welcome back everyone to our Motzi Shabbos marathon. And just in case you didn't catch the Shir Bereshis Gems 5786, that is on TorahAnytime.com, on YouTube, on Kol Haloshen. It's a very illuminating Shir. And also, if you didn't check out and watch with your children or grandchildren, my Shir on the kids section, Red Alert, Beware of Chilul Hashem. That is definitely a worthwhile watch.
It's not just worthwhile, it's fantastic. I think that this should be distributed to every single yeshiva.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable what you did there.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, but Baruch Hashem, I see on Torah Anytime, it was already watched by over 900 people. So Baruch Hashem, it did get some. I gave it in Beis Fega on Hoshana Rabbah.
I saw it on YouTube, so I'm sure there are more people who saw it.
Yeah, YouTube also is almost 200 people watching on YouTube. So, and you know, I stream in places that I don't even know. So Baruch Hashem, as Irving said, let us dedicate the share for my mother. She should have a refuah shalema. She has a pinched nerve. She should have a refuah shalema. Esther Fradel Bas Chana. We are now starting 3 lines from the top on our second daf of Motzi Shabbos. Herschel wanted to know, are we only learning 2 blat? I'm sorry, Herschel, just 2 blat. Herschel, when he comes, he's already ready to dig in. What do you have for me? You have a chok. What do you have? It's been a long time since I said a chok. Wow. Yeah. B'chol Avram says, for the amount of money I'm paying you, I want to see, let's go. Come on, Rabbi Weiss. And I get you. I understand. So I am still a bit under the weather. So 3 lines from the top of Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. So the Gemara says, but Kol Kodesh Loisiga is not available to tell me that if you touch Kachim B'tumah, you get Malchus. Vakati Mibayle, it's coming to tell me a different Chiddush. L'tamei she'achal basar Kodesh L'fnei Zrika. That a Tamei that eats basar Kachim before Zrika is forbidden. That he gets malchus. You see the Isser Karis is only for eating it after Zrika. Before Zrika, what's the story then? Before the sprinkling of the blood. So the Gemara says, and mute yourself, please, Rabbi Isai. The Gemara says, "V'akate mibayle l'tamei she'achal basar kodesh l'fnei zrika." The itmar tamei she'achal basar kodesh l'fnei zrika. If you eat kachim before zrika, Reish Lakish amalaika. Reish Lakish says you get malchus. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ain't alaika. Reish Lakish amalaika. Reish Lakish says you get malchus. B'kol kodesh loisiga. It says all kodesh you shouldn't touch. Loishna l'fnei zrika v'loishna la'achaz zrika. It makes no difference whether it's before the blood is sprinkled or after the blood is sprinkled. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ein alaika. Kiditani bardala. Ask you tumasai. We learn out of Gzeirah Shavah tumasai, comparing the eating of the kachim b'tumah to entering into the mikdash b'tumah. Now, just like entering in the mikdash is a kares, so only eating is b'kares, and there's kares only after zrika. V'chi kasevahu la'achar zrika. There's only kares for eating it after zrika. But before Zrika, Rabbi Yochanan says there isn't even Malchus. So again, how could Reish Lakish use this pasuk to tell me the din of touching kachim when you're tamei is Malchus, when we use it to tell me that eating kachim when you're tamei before zrika, there's malchus. So it says Reish Lakish, yeah, but there's also bakol. So that's extra to tell me this halacha. Im kein lema kra bakodesh loisiga. My bechol kodesh. When it says bechol kodesh, it comes to tell me even kachim before zrika and shmami ne'atarte. We learn both. We learn that you're not allowed to touch it betumas agov, and you're also not allowed to eat kachim betuma even before the zrika sadam. Gufa. Whenever the Gemara says gufa, it means that we're going to do a little analysis of what we've already mentioned. So, and by the way, I want to point out to Marshall that we have 36 people here, 5 people in shul. That's 41. Marshall, you're really getting close to a case of bourbon. So, if you would just, make some more phone calls and, get people excited, you could be in bourbon heaven.
I get people excited, they run the other way.
Yeah, well, you have to do it the right way. You're a smart man. You'll think about it, Send out packages of, Romanian francs. Do what you have to, you have to.
I thought this goofo was for me.
Yeah, well, you are a goof. But anyway, the Gemara says, that's what you meant, right?
Yep.
Right. Go to Chicago and get a free oil change and alignment. Yeah.
I'll align your wall.
Now, do you do alignments, Marshall?
I don't do them in-house.
No, okay. I figured the cars that come to you are not aligned. Okay, says the Gemara, Gufa, Tomei she'achal b'sar kodesh l'fnei zrika, Reish Lakish Amalaika. Reish Lakish says is Malchus, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ein Alaika. Amar Abaya, Machloikis b'tumas haguf. The Machloikis is only when the person, remember there's 2 things. There's the person is tamei and the meat is tar, or the person is tar and the meat is tamei. So Amar Abaya Machloikis b'tumas haguf. Aval b'tumas basar. If Marshall is tar and he eats basar that's tamei, divrei akol loika. Everybody holds this malchus. The Amakra, because the pasuk says v'habasar, and it was talking about eating it when it's tamei, and it says the rabbis eitzim ulavayna, that even, and this is a big chiddush, Marshall sometimes really gets hungry. So even if he eats wood or frankincense, even though the la b'nei achilan in them, even though they're not an edible, still there's malchus for eating them. Va'afilu hachi rabinu kra. And even so the pasuk says that if they're tamei, you can't eat it. Now, if that's the case, then surely if you eat basar that's tamei, which is edible, you surely get malchus. However, Rava says no, it's not true. The Rava Amar Machloikis b'tumas haguf. The Machloikis between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is only when the mensch is tamei. Aval b'tumas basar, but if Marshall is tar and the meat is tamei, divrei hakol ein alaika. But what about you even get malchus for the eitzim and lavaina? My timer. What's the reason? Since we can't apply to it that the tumah is upon him, and he gets karis, because there's no karis if Marshall is tar and the meat is tamei. Like Karina Bay, we don't read it. We don't read it that the meat which touches all that is tamei, you should not eat. In other words, the Torah teaches us that the prohibition of eating meat that is tamei only is talking about when that meat is fit for eating. That's after the zrika. Then it would be forbidden. But if it's before the zrika and it's tamei, then there's no malchus for eating it. Why is it different than eitzim u'lavaina? V'amamav abasel rabbis eitzim u'lavaina. Says no. Eitzim u'lavaina is different because the eitzim u'lavaina were already sanctified in the klei sharis. When it's sanctified in the klei sharis, it's considered like it's processed. So then it's considered like after zrika. Oh, it's sanctified in the klei sharis. That's the nasa kamisha karvu kol matira. That's considered as if the zrika was already done. It's considered as if it was processed. Itnan kol sheyesh lo matirim. Anything that has a matirim, mishi karvu matirav. There's karis only after its matir, its zrika was done. Kol she'enoi matirin. If there isn't a matir, like by the wood and the levina, there's no matir, there's no zrika done on the wood or the levina. What is their processing? Mishi kaddish bekeli. There, once it's kaddish bekeli, then if you eat it when you're tummy, it's prohibited. But before zrika, Rava holds that there's no prohibition if Marshall, there's no malchus, if Marshall, when he's tar, eats the basa, which is tamei, before zrika. Now, Marshall is wild tonight. The question is, what happens if Marshall takes horse meat? And this is a new pshat in horsing around. Marshall takes horse meat. Mr. Ed would never do this. Marshall takes horse meat and puts it on the mizbeach. Or camel meat. Or dog meat. Is he getting malchus for that? So let's see the Gemara inside. Itmar, hamala evrei behema tameya al gabe hamizbeach. If you put limbs of a behema tameya, of a horse, on the mizbeach, Reish Lakish amalaika, Rabbi Yochanan amar ein alaika. Reish Lakish says there's malchus. Rabbi Yochanan says there's no malchus. Reish Lakish amalaika. Why? And this reason is not going to stand. It doesn't make sense. Because the pasuk says behema ta'ira. Ta'ira in, and therefore we imply ta'ira in, only an animal that's tar, t'mei alai. So that's a lav abba bichlal michlal aseh. That's a negative inferred from a positive. The Torah says behema you should bring, behema ta'ira you should bring. We infer, but not t'mei. And the Gemara says, v'lav abba b'chlal aseh loikin olav. Now that's not so. We know all through Shas that a lav abba b'chlal aseh is only an aseh. While Rabbi Yochanan ain't loikin olav. Rabbi Yochanan says that there's no malchus. Why? As I said, lav abba b'chlal aseh ain't loikin olav, because a lav abba b'chlal aseh is an aseh. Says the Gemara, I'm sorry, this doesn't hold. Ma'aseh Rabbi Yirmiyah, it says in the pasuk, "Oisay teichelu," you should eat kosher, v'la behema tameya, and not non-kosher. Eat kosher, not non-kosher. V'la abba mechlal aseh is only an aseh. So how could Reish Lakish say that lav abba mechlal aseh is a lav? Says, no, you're right. Strike it. That's, it's just a wrong teaching. Amalei Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yirmiyah about Tachlifa. So Rabbi Yaakov says to Rabbi Yirmiyah about Tachlifa, Asber alach, I'll give you the right explanation. Be'evrei be'emet tameya, if he puts horse meat on the mizbeach, the kuli amalei pligi, there he's not getting lashes because it's a lav abba mechlal aseh, and lav abba mechlal aseh is only an aseh, it's only a positive commandment. Ki pligi b'chaya. The argument is, what if Marshall offers some venison. Now you're talking a whole different kettle of fish. Venison is a kosher creature. The only thing is, it's a chaya. The Torah only says behemoths. The deer is not a domesticated animal; it's a beast, and that's the machlokes. Says the Gemara, "Ki pligi b'chaya, a kosher chaya." V'achi yitmer, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Oiver Ba'asei. If he offers deer on the mizbeach, if he offers venison on the mizbeach, according to some, he offers buffalo on the mizbeach. And some say buffalo is a kosher animal. I understand that they were selling buffalo in Walmart, kosher buffalo in Walmart a few years ago. Yeah, you know that? Yeah. Yeah. It's very rough, no? It's a rough meat. That's what I heard. Huh?
Gamey flavor.
Yeah, that's what I heard. There used to be a restaurant in Manhattan. I don't think it's around anymore, but there used to be a restaurant in Manhattan called Levana.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I remember the name.
And Levana used to serve these specialty items. They served quail, they served venison, they served these specialty items. But anyway, the connoisseurs like Barry would know about these things, but they...
Connoisseur is Barry.
Listen, Wilbur.
Says Gemara, V'achi yitmar, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Oiver Ba'asei. He transgresses a positive commandment. Reish Lakish Aimer ain't over b'loy klum. He's not over anything.
How do they shaft the deer?
They shaft the deer the same way. They cut the trachea and the esophagus. It can be done.
I mean, it's not like a cow or a bull. They stand still. Deer is...
They hold the beer there. It can be done. It is done. It is done. How do you get Barry to stay in this year? It's done. It's done. It's like you're telling Eddie to stay in one place. It can be done. Leg irons. Leg irons. Look, even Marshall comes, and he's sitting through 2 dafim yet,
Like I said,
right, yeah. So anyway, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Oiver Ba'asei, because the pasuk says, behema, you bring a behema in chayaloi, a behema and not a chaya, and not a deer. And that's a lava ba mechlal asay, is an asay. Reish Lakish Amar Eimen Oiver B'lo V'loi Klum, ha'ul a mitzvah. Pasuk is telling you that it's preferable to bring cattle. But if you want to bring a chaya, you can. So the Gemara says, no, it's not so. You cannot bring a deer on the Mizbeach. As the Gemara will now refute Reish Lakish. Moisev Rava, ilu nemar korban la'Hashem behema. If it would say korban la'Hashem behema, I would say throughout Shas we say chaya b'chlal behema, that a beast is included in behema, and I would permit a deer as well. Ke'inyan shenema, like it says, Zoisa behema asher toichelu, shor sek kvasim ksavim, an ox, a sheep, and also goats, v'se'izim, and kvasim v'se'izim, sheep and goats, ayil, the heart, utzvi. So you see, it included in Zoisa Behema is also the ayil and tzvi that are chayas. Talmud Laim, the pasuk says, bakar v'tzayin, only from the cattle and the sheep. Bakar v'tzayin amarti lach v'loi chaya. Now I might think, yochel lo yavi, that it's not preferable, but v'imhevi kosher, if you do bring it, it's okay, which is Halamaz Edaima. The Talmud Shamalei Rabbi Havalei Chitim, he says, bring me wheat. Ve'evi Chitim Messirim, if the Talmud brings wheat and barley, She'enoi kamaver al devar, he's not transgressing anything. Elamaisav al devar, he's adding the kosher. And then I would think that it's okay to bring a deer and the heart on the mizbeach. Talmud Leimer, it says a second time, Bakar v'tzayin amarti lach v'lo chaya. And this could be compared, Holamaz Daima, where the Talmud Shamalei Rabbi, to a Talmud that the Rebbe says, Al Tovali Elachitin, only bring me wheat, and Behavi Lachitin the Sarmi brings wheat and barley, that there he's Iver al Devar. Sheina Kamaisav al Devar, that's not adding, Ela Kamaver al Devar. That's just going against his commandment. So, apostle, and therefore if you bring a deer and a heart, it's possible. Tiyufta the Reish Lakish, Tiyufta, that's a refutation of Reish Lakish, that it's v'lo over klum. Rather, you cannot bring a deer and a heart. So interesting that Reish Lakish is of the opinion that you could bring a deer and a heart on the Mizbech, it's just not preferable. But we have refuted Reish Lakish.
What is a heart?
Heart is a species of deer.
Are you allowed to bring the steer to the Mizbeach?
No, that's also a chaya. Not a steer, not a gazelle, not a buffalo,
So you're saying
not an ibex.
okay.
Yeah. Now,
What would it have been? What would it have been? Would it have been a korban of some sort? Like it would have been I'm confused. What would it have been?
it would have been a carbon. Yes.
Stam and oila. You could say on a gazelle and oila.
Shlomin.
Probably a shlabin. Now,
Did we say before that eating a treifa animal is only an assay?
yes. Yes.
It is a lice assay.
No, but it's a lice essay for a different reason. It's a lice essay because it's a nevela.
When the Pusik says that all the animals that are treif in Parshas Rei and Parshas Shmini,
Right.
that's because it's nevela?
No, is there a lav over there of lice chelu?
I know it says that in Re'eh.
Yeah. So, excuse me. Taisus asks you a question. Taisus is bothered by it. If you look at the third Taisus on the bottom, Oisoi Teichelu, Aseifa Samach, the Ketani B'Toris Kahanim, Ein Li Ela Asei, Belois Asei Minayin, it's just pointing to you the idea that this is a lava bubble chalal asay is an asay. But Einochanami, there's a lois asay as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Now, please mute yourself. Yeah, Barry, that's you. Now, it's really nice to be together with 35 Zoomers and all of you here. It really is nice. It's what a way to start off the week. It's good for the whole week. When Rav Zilberman's all the years ago created the Motzi Shabbos Father and Learning Program, he said, start your week off the right way. Learn with your child. So to start the week off with learning Tu Blat, what could be better than that? What's better than that is learning Tu Blat and Mishnah Yomis, which we'll do as well. The Kulan Shekiblu, I want to remind everybody also, don't forget to finish Bingma V'Sedra. You have till Tuesday. Don't forget. Don't wait. Don't say, oh yeah, I'll do it next year. I already didn't do it. Don't do that. The whole Mavis Seder doesn't take that long. Come on.
I'm up to date already, Baruch Hashem.
Good. Excellent. The Kulan Shekiblu, if we learned that if the apostle receives the blood, right? So we said that if there's still blood gurgling, there's still Dama Nefesh, so you could take the Dama Nefesh and do the Avodah. So now the Gemara clears a few interesting questions. Boy minei Reish Lakish Reb Yochanan. Puzzle Mao Shiyasa Shirayim. If let's say, let's see it, we need a puzzle. Marshall, let's say Marshall, most people here, except for Yitzi, are a puzzle because they're not a Kayin, right? So, but let's say, but Marshall is a good puzzle. Marshall, you have a new t-shirt to make. It'll say I'm in puzzle.
Yeah. So what's the picture going to be on it?
Your photo. So anyway, so by minei Reish Lakish Reb Yochanan, puzzle. If Marshall takes blood and sprinkles it on the mizbeach, Mao Shiyasa Shirayim, does when he do the avodah, does he make the rest of the blood shirayim, and then a kohen can't take the rest of the blood and do the zrika? Or maybe, no, it's just like a non-action, and if there's still blood in the neck, a kohen could take it and do the zrika. Amalei, so the Gemara says, no, Marshall is a non-action. He's like, nothing happened. You know what I mean? Picture that. Marshall does it, it's like nothing happened. The only puzzle dik avodah that is considered like something happened, making the rest of the blood in the neck into shirayim and unusable. Amalei ein oisin shirayim ela chutz l'zmanai v'chutz l'mekaymai. If let's say a kohen takes the blood and sprinkles it with a machshav of chutz l'zmanai and chutz l'mekaymai, the rest of the blood in the neck is not usable anymore. Why? Because it's considered an action because it makes the carbon pigul or puzzle. So that makes the remaining blood into shirayim. Rav Zvid masnei hachi. Rav Zvid taught it differently. By minei Reish Lakish Reb Yochanan kais puzzle. Here's an interesting thing. If the kohen throws on the mizbeach blood that was disqualified because it was taken out, the blood that was disqualified was puzzle b'yotzei. It was taken out of the mikdash, and he put it on the mizbeach. There's still lifeblood in the neck. Mao shiyasa shirayim, will it make the lifeblood shirayim that the kohen can't save the carbon by sprinkling it? Because once it becomes remnants, it can't be used. Amalei, so he told him, well, it depends. Psul gufei masvirulach. What do you hold if a puzzle sprinkled it? If puzzle mashvei shirayim, if the person that's puzzle makes the blood in the neck remnants and unusable, then kais puzzle nami mashvei shirayim. Then if it's a kais of puzzle blood that was put on the mizbeach, would also make the remnant shirayim. Puzzle loy mashvei shirayim, but if a zor put it on the mizbeach, it would make what's in the neck shirayim. Kais puzzle nami loy mashvei shirayim. Rabbi Yirmiyah medifdei masnei hachi. A whole new question. Let's say you caught the blood in 2 klei sharis, and you did the zrika with the first case. What's the din with the blood in the second case? Is it shirayim, and then it has to be poured by the base of the mizbeah, or is it rejected, and then it's just poured into the amma, in the irrigation canal that flows outside in the mizbeach? Let's see that inside. By minei abaya mirabba. Kais Mao Shiyas Es Chaverai. If you caught blood in 2 clay sharas, and you did the zrika with the first clay sharas, what does it make the other kais? Dichui, dachui, rejected, and then it's poured into the ama, into the irrigation canal, or shirayim, or does it become a remnant, and it's poured by the base of the mizbeach? Says, well, it's a very good question. It's actually a machlokes. Amalei plukter the Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon, Rabbanan. It's a machlokes, Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon, and Rabbanan. The Tanya, there's a stira, a slight stira, between 2 psukim. Lamalahu Aimer, above it says, as damai yishvaich. It says that the blood you should pour. Not all the blood, but the blood you should pour. One pasuk says, as dama yishvaich. Lamatu Aimer, another pasuk says, as kol dama yishvaich. You should spill all of its blood. So why does one pasuk say spill blood, and one pasuk say spill all of its blood? So the Gemara now says, Minayin, remember, the blood of a chatas is applied on the 4 corners of the mizbeach, the 4 kronos, the 4 horn-like projections on the top of the mizbeach. So Minayin lechatas shekibel dama ba'arba kaises. How do you know that a sin offering that you caught its blood in 4 clay sharas, v'nosin matana achas mizeh, and you made 1 horn from 1 keli, another horn from another keli, a 3rd horn from the 3rd keli, and a 4th horn from the 4th keli, shekula nishpachim liyasayid, then the remnants of all the 4 clay sharas are poured to the base, like the din of Shirayim, Talmud Leimer ves kol dama yishvay, all its blood is spilled. Yochel nasan arba matanas mikais echad. I might think that if you did all 4 placements from one of the clay sharas, you kula nishpachim liyasayid, then all the blood, even in the other 3 clay sharas, is poured to the aside. Talmud Leimer, no, there it says as dama, only its blood. Okay, tzad. The one that you made the 4 placements with, hu nishpach liyasayid, that's poured to the base. The hain and the other 3, they're nishpach lama. So that answers our question. This man Yama holds that the blood of one case makes the others dochi, makes the others rejected, and they're just poured out into the irrigation canal, the Amma irrigation canal that goes out to Nachal Kidron. Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon, no. Minayin lechatas shekibel dama ba'arba kaises. If you caught the blood in 4 kelim, v'nosin dalad matanas mikais echad, and you made 4 placements from 1 vessel, shekula nishpach liyasayid, even so, the contents of the other 3 clay sharas are also poured to the aside. Talmud Leimer ves kol dama yishbay. I said, and what does he do with ves dama yishbay? I voksiv ves dama yishbay. No, that's coming to tell me a different halacha. That's coming to tell me if there's yet blood gurgling in the throat, that blood should go into the amma. Amar Ravashi, shirayim shebetzava behema, that taka is poured out, that's rejected, and that goes into the amma. Now, for the last discussion of the evening, and we are, 2 blot, and pretty long, the second blot. We're only at 1 hour and 4 minutes. I'm telling you, this is the way to travel. Now, Kibal HaKosher v'nasan l'pasel. So we said, if we said that in the event, if Yitzi caught the blood and he gave it to Marshall, right? So we said that Marshall could return it back to Yitzi and it could continue. Now we said also, if Yitzi caught the blood in his right hand and put it in his left hand, he could put it back to his right hand. Right? We learned different cases. So now the Gemara is going to explain why all the cases are necessary. If Yitzi caught the blood and gave it to Marshall, Marshall returns it back to Yitzi. Now, v'tzricha. Diashmin in the case of puzzle, I would say, who's the puzzle? A kohen that's tamei. And the reason why he could give it back is because he's not that bad, since if the whole tzibur would be tamei, he'd be allowed to do the avodah. So he has some redeeming feature. Diashmin a puzzle, my puzzle tamei, who has a redeeming feature, the chazi avodah tzibur. He could do it if the majority of the tzibur is tamei. Aval small, but if Marshall passes it to his left, if Yitzi passes it to his left hand, loy. On the other hand, v'i ashminan small, there is a redeeming factor small, and that is there's one time of the year where the avodah is done b'smal, and that's when the kohen gadol goes into the kodesh kadashim with the coals in his right hand and the ladles of the incense in his left hand. So there is a time that the left hand is used. The Isleach Sheira b'Yom Kippurim. Aval Kleichel, but if Yitzi caught it in a sacred vessel and poured it into a mundane vessel, there not. Aval Kleichel lo. On the other hand, V'yashmin and Kleichel, and if you'll tell me the case of Kleichel, that's Mishum Dechazu L'Kdushinu. That's because it is fit to sanctify it. So it has a potential. Aval hanach, but the left hand, that you can't make the left hand good, and the tamei, you can't make the tamei good, aimalai, therefore tzricha, therefore it has to say all of these cases. Says the Gemara, but I don't understand. When Yitzi catches it and gives it to Marshall, shouldn't it become rejected as soon as it's given to Marshall? Marshall is, he's a rejectionist. Right? Says the Gemara, asks the Gemara, it should be rejected. Says the Gemara, there's a man yama that doesn't hold of dichi. Amalei Ravina l'Ravashi hachi amar Rab Yirmiyah medifti mishmei derava. Hamani chanan amitzvi. This is going according to chanan amitzvi. The less like dichuyin. He doesn't hold of rejection. Where do we are? Here's Mo Kushner. He doesn't hold of rejection. Mo, it's good to have you. Welcome. This is going according to chanan amitzvi, who doesn't hold the rejection. We're on the bottom of Lamed Dalet Amud Beis. Titania, Chanan HaMitzri Omer, Afilu Dam Bekais. Even if the blood of the Soil Hashem is already, remember on Yom Kippur, there's two twin goats. They were chosen by a lottery. He holds that even if the blood of the Soil Hashem is caught already in the keli, was slaughtered and caught in the keli, and the Azazel dies, we don't say that when the Azazel dies it becomes rejected, but maybe Chaveru, we pick another Sar for Azazel, and pair it up. So we see that Chanan HaMitzri doesn't hold the rejection. So even though you gave it to Marshall, he doesn't hold that it's rejected. Marshall just passes it back to Yitzi. Rav Ashi says a different answer. Rav Ashi says, I wonder who he lost. We lost one person. Rav Ashi Amar, Rav Ashi says, anything that you have control to fix is not considered rejected. It's a new definition in rejection. Since you could take it back from Marshall, in other words, anything that's reversible is not considered rejected. Anything that's reversible is not considered rejected. Let's see it inside. Rav Ashi Amar Kol Shebi Yadai, anything you could reverse, Lo Yavi Dichai. Amar Rav Shaya, so Rav Shaya says, Kavasei de Rav Ashi Mistabra. It's reasonable like Rav Ashi. Man Shamas Leidi Islay Dichuyin, who holds of Dichui? Rabbi Yehuda, Nitnan, Va'idam Rabbi Yehuda, Nishpach Adam, if the blood of the sar falls on the floor, the Kayin misses it, and it falls on the floor, so at that moment, the sar Lazazel is the only one, so it becomes rejected. Yomis HaMishtaleach, Meis HaMishtaleach, if the sar Lazazel dies, then the blood of the sar Hashem, which is in the Kais, Yishafach Adam. So you see, he holds a rejection. Yet, he says a very interesting thing by the Korban Pesach. Remember, there were thousands of Korban Pesachs offered, and the blood was passed from one kain to another kain to another kain, assembly line. There's a worry that maybe some blood spilled and didn't get to the Mizbeach. So they had stopped up the floor, and they scoop up blood from the floor, and they throw it on the Mizbeach. In that way, in case some of the blood fell, they'll get it, a little bit of it, on the Mizbeach. But when it fell, it was rejected. Elamai, since it's reversible, because you could scoop it up, that's not considered rejected. When the Sar Azazel dies, that's not reversible. B'shamina leida amar kol shebiyadai lo yavi dichai. Did not Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, kais echad mamale midamat aruvas. They filled up a kais from the mixed blood on the floor. V'zarku zrika achas keneged hayesod, and they gave one zrika opposite the base to cover if some blood didn't get on the mizbeach. Shmamina, that kol shebiyadai, if it's reversible, lo yavi dichai, it's not considered rejected. Shmamina. Okay, Rabbi say, good job. I want to remind you that we are I'm going to do the Mishnah Yomis now, also for the sea of people on Kol Haloshin and on YouTube and on Torah Anytime. If you would like to support these shiurim, you could sponsor a share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you, and a good tavach.